All right, my name is Lloyd, and they call me Bud. Lindeman. I was born in the south part of the county, grew up in the country area, went to country school, came to Atlantic to high school, and liked football and basketball, played both, ran track, but I loved music too. In the fall of the winter of 1941, I was at the high school. It was a Sunday, December 7th, and you know where I'm going with this one, in 1941. And they brought in some news that there had been a bombing in Pearl Harbor, and I'm not sure I even knew where Pearl Harbor was. But the Japanese had attacked. I didn't know for sure how that was going to affect me, and certainly did for the rest of my life. But I went on in high school, registered for the draft. I was 18 in January of 1944. Went into Des Moines, Camp Dodge, took my military physical. They gave me a deferment to finish high school. The middle of May, I graduated from high school in Atlantic here, and I was given about 2 weeks at home. Went into Des Moines and Camp Dodge and was inducted into the Army. They shipped me to Florida, Camp Blanding, Florida, and a country boy a long ways from home, and took basic training there, infantry basic training. 17 weeks, good training. I had excellent training. Came home, went back to Fort Smith, Camp Chaffee in Arkansas. I was there a Sunday at Fort Smith. And it's been quite a trip between back then and now. But I went on to Camp Miles Standish, north of Boston, shipped out in a convoy, and went, this would have been in December of 1944. About the time that the Germans launched their last big assault, called the Battle of the Bulge. They went into Belgium. And we landed in England, and there was a real hurry up to get us back in, get us into combat as replacements. We'd taken some pretty heavy casualties when they first went into Belgium. We went across the channel, got on a train, boxcars called 40 and 8s. They're relics from World War I. It's 40 hommes, 8 chevaux. I think if my French is right, it's 40 humans or 8 horses. And they hauled us right through the middle of the country, cold, terribly cold, bitter cold. No fire, no heat. Our equipment was poor. They had attacked, and we had been surprised. The brass didn't know, evidently, this was coming. And so we were under-equipped, and I froze my feet eventually. I'm 60% disabled because of it, but I went into the Battle of Bulge as a replacement. Our company took some pretty heavy casualties during the early stages of the battle. When I froze my feet, I was evacuated to a hospital and eventually back to the division. I was in the 84th Infantry Division, 333rd Regiment, Company B. I was a rifleman, the lowest there is. I wear my combat infantry badge when I do presentations, because the infantryman doesn't have a lot to be proud of, and the infantryman is proud of the combat infantry badge because you have to go through fire to get it. After the Battle of Bulge, I was still 18. We were among some of the first teenagers that were sent into battle. I was still 18 at the end of the Battle of the Bulge. We went back to northern Germany in the Siegfried Line on the border of Holland and Germany, where the division had been before they were called down to help in the Battle of the Bulge. We rested up a little bit and made an assault then across the northern part of Germany, the last part of World War II. We crossed the Ruhr River and took the little towns one by one as they were assigned to us, eventually taking the big town, the 5th largest at that time in Germany, of Hanover. It was kind of interesting to me that my grandparents had come from Hanover, and I know they were country folks and farmers, and we stayed all night in farm buildings outside of Hanover before we jumped off the next morning And I remember thinking at the time, wondered if this might possibly be where Grandpa grew up. It was a far-fetched deal. It wasn't. They were country folks from out in the country a little bit further. But we took Hanover, and I did the math on it one time, and it was just 75 years the time Grandpa left Hanover until I was back in World War II. But we took the little towns, and sometimes we had a lot of resistance, and sometimes none at all. As we went further and further into Germany, we came on the little towns, and sometimes there was still meals on the table. Once in a while, the big phones would be working. We moved that fast. We rode piggyback on the back of Sherman tanks, and a lot of it was exciting, and most of it was pretty scary. We were told to take this little country town, and I'm telling a story about my helmet that I brought with me today. By the way, this is a story of love and war. I'll make a little in-between comment here. When I was in high school, I met a girl that I had seen in our Sunday school at church, a beautiful little freshman girl. And I had dated her, and she had written me, I think every day I was in the service, wrote in blue stationery and with a little drop of perfume on it. Just a little something that the girls might think about. Anyway, these letters came through still with a nice smell of perfume. The mail clerk would take a little sniff of it. He'd say, "Lindy," they called me Lindy, and throw it. And anyway, I'll finish that story at the end. But we took these little towns one by one, and you never knew what it was going to be. We had walked all night. I remember it was, I was so tired, and I was in good shape. I just finished the year of football, basketball, and track, and 17 weeks basic. But I was so tired, I went to sleep walking, and it was the woods. And I remember walking into a tree. I'd gone to sleep walking, and I hit the tree, and I thought to myself, I'd like to do something to this tree. I really, you'd have to be there to understand it. I was that tired, and I thought if I took my bayonet, and then I thought, this is crazy. I found my helmet, and away we went. We went on and came to this little town that we were to take. It was early in the morning, a peaceful little country town. There was a light fog, and when the infantry advances, they have two guys go out first. They're called the scouts, the points, or whatever. First scout, second scout, and then the main body. And they're the high-risk positions because you're wide open, to whatever might happen. And we argued about it. We rotated that position, and they were arguing about who had the position last. And finally, I did something that I knew better than to do. One of the first things you learn in the Army is don't volunteer. I said, let's go. And I grabbed my rifle and took off. And they followed in behind. And I got just about 60 yards from the edge of this little town. And there was a hedge along the edge of the town. And somebody opened up with a machine gun and rifles at 60 yards. And it was just the hand of the Lord that I didn't get it the first time. They missed me at 60 yards, and of course in a fraction of a second I was down. And I have strong faith. I believe the good Lord I carried a little testament, not that this is protects you by any means, but my sisters had given me a New Testament. And I had this read when I had time. Got a little steel cover on it. Wouldn't stop a bullet by any means, but I carried it over my heart. But I went on and I dropped down, pushed off the safety on my M1, put 8 rounds where I thought I heard the sound come from. And the lieutenant was behind me, and he's hollering, "Lindy, what do you see?" And I said, "I don't see a thing." And I just raised my head up like this, and I heard it hit. And I thought it was a ricochet. It just creased it. And I had a camouflage net on, but I felt up. I was laying flat with my nose really flat. And I'm sure the guy, it was a single shot from a rifle, and I'm sure the guy thought he killed me because he would have heard it hit. And I felt this, but it was too far up front. And then I looked and I see that there's the exit hole, and I could feel that with my hand. I couldn't see it, but I felt it with my hand. I thought, that guy hit me. And then I had the strangest thought that came through my mind. I thought he killed me.